Earlier today, the Department of Justice outgoing Attorney General Merrick Garland delivered his farewell remarks, urging DOJ career staffers to follow department norms, especially when circumstances are not normal. Garland's address comes while his probable successor, Pam Bondi, Donald Trump's Attorney General nominee, undergoes her Senate confirmation process. During her first hearing yesterday, Bondi refused to admit that Trump legitimately lost the 2020 election and evaded questions about whether she would carry out Trump's promises for retribution.
You have said that Department of Justice prosecutors will be prosecuted in the Trump administration. What Department of Justice prosecutors will be prosecuted and why?
I said that on TV. I said prosecutors will be prosecuted to finish the quote, if bad. Investigators will be investigated. You know, we all take an oath, Senator, to uphold the law. None of us are above the law.
Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, Democrat of Rhode Island, is a member of the Judiciary Committee, and he joins me now. Unlike the Armed Services Committee, which only got Pete Hegseth for half a day, there have been 2 days of hearings in your committee, in the Judiciary Committee. Your impressions of the nominee to be Attorney General so far?
She is obviously a qualified prosecutor. She's been a courtroom prosecutor for a long time, twice elected Attorney General of a major state. She was an engaging witness who said a lot of the right things. And then, when it got to an area where there was a Trump sensibility, it was like watching a plane fly into the Bermuda Triangle and all the navs and comms go haywire. And she couldn't answer the most elementary questions like, who won the last presidential election? She couldn't bring herself to say that. And so you can find tape of her saying wonderful things about her own commitment to independence. But when she had to demonstrate it with her behavior,
right,
she couldn't say these basic things. She couldn't say that Biden won. She pretended there had been a peaceful transfer of power to a room full of people, most of whom had lived through January 6th. She said that she couldn't agree that there was no predication to prosecute Liz Cheney or Jack Smith. And she pretended that there was no enemies list. So these are all the things that are going to provoke Trump. And if you want to be his attorney general, you got to be able to say no to somebody like him, a convicted criminal, for Pete's sake. And so when she can't even use language that might offend him in her hearing, she pretty much blew up the case for the actuality of her independence as opposed to her ability to say that she'd be independent.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And it was so striking. I didn't watch all of these hearings, but I watched a fair amount. That it was there. It does. I actually will say this to your point about the first part of this. She handled herself very well. I mean, you know, it was not. This was not like some ludicrously in over her head individual. I think there are some people of whom that could be said about Donald Trump's nominees. And it really was striking that when you got to those areas, which are the Trump no-go zones, she would not go in them. Everyone in the room understood what she was doing. And that's precisely the thing. We know day one, he will be putting pressure on her to do God knows what.
Yeah, if she can't explain to the White House or to the MAGA flying monkeys or to the president or to her handlers or whatever, hey, when I say that I'm going to base my decisions in this office on truth and facts and evidence, I can't then pretend that Joe Biden didn't win that election, because that is the truth. Those are the facts. There is evidence of that. And so there was this wild discontinuity between saying all the right things and then, like I said, boom, into the Bermuda Triangle and all the nabs and comms haywire.
Okay, let me play out this scenario, and I don't know how honest you're going to be with me here, but I'll go with it. It seems to me almost definitionally no one that Trump would appoint would say those things. So the question is, how do you game this out? Because it really is going to matter who's the AG, and there were examples of Jeff Sessions, for instance, who I was almost surprised did, resisting Trump quite a bit. Bill Barr resisted him way less, but there were even things that Bill Barr, well, he basically just got out of town and let everyone deal with the aftermath. But I mean, like, I guess my question is, like, is there someone you could imagine him nominating that you could, in good conscience, vote for? Because aren't they all going to do that?
I don't think they all have to do that. I mean, once you've gotten to the point where you're in the hearing, and your name has been put forward, is some
What's he going
dweeb
to do?
over in the White House really going to say, hey, Mr. President, we got to pull the Pam Bondi nomination because she said that Joe Biden had been elected? There's a anticipatory chicken-ness to this that I think is weird. And, you know, she may very well, as a proper attorney general, have to walk into the Oval Office and say, hey, Mr. President, what you're doing is wrong. What you're saying is wrong. The law doesn't allow that. I'm not able to execute on what you're asking me to do. And, you know, the consequence could very well be that she should be fired. In the history of the Department of Justice, very significant people in proud moments have either threatened to or actually resigned, given up their jobs to make a point, to defend their honor. So when you can't even take this teensy-weensy little step in the hearing, once you're all that way along, when your chances of being fired are probably 0.1%, then what's it going to be like when the day comes where the criminal president of the United States asks you to do something unspeakable and you have shown that you can't stand up to that moment?
I want to briefly play our colleague Mary McCord talking about the fact that there is no immunity for the AG under the infamous Roberts decision about presidential immunity, which also should factor in here. Take a listen.
The immunity decision right now, as far as we know, applies only to the president. And so there's no immunity for Attorney General Bondi if she were to engage in illegal activity or unconstitutional activity in carrying out a directive of Donald Trump.
One hopes at the very least that does weigh heavy on whoever occupies the office, Senator.
Yeah, except for the pardon power.
Fair point.
That's the problem with that.
Fair point. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse.
If you wanted to run a conspiracy out of the Oval Office, you would have an agreement with all of your official members who you'd be using to gather that immunity around yourself, that they would be pardoned.
Good point. Senator, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.